All right, Anthony, we all set? All right, cool.
Kick this off.
Let's kick this off
style.
then. Yeah, feels like the music is playing us in. You hear the music?
It's nice, original.
It's nice, yeah.
Yeah, Ben
It was a little
actually did
mashup.
work on
Yeah.
that.
Very good.
We took an old Baroque song, because I know you never listened to the podcast before. We took an old Baroque song. Ben put in some percussion
Some beats.
and called it a day.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm not even sure if he listened to what he created, but it's
Timelines.
It is a file that we sent to Anthony, and then now it's our.
Yeah.
Nice work.
And that's
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
That's good. Nice work.
All right. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity then to welcome everybody to the Video Reformation Podcast. I'm Ben.
I'm Justin.
And who are you?
I'm Josh.
You're Josh. Okay. Well, Josh is our guest today.
Where did he come from?
Where did he come from? I don't know. He just walked in.
Okay.
He's like,
When a man and a woman love each other.
it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Ooh. Anyway, let's go back to the thing. So let's see. I'm Ben. You're Justin.
That's right.
You're our guest, Josh. Justin and I, we're the co-founders of Storyboard Media. We're your hosts for the podcast. Just think of us as the Tenzing Norgay to your Sir Edmund Hillary as we strive to reach the peak of video for business.
Is it like an anniversary of that event or anything, or
Nope.
You just brought
No,
okay, just rolled it into this one.
Just rolled it right in.
Nice.
We're your fearless Sherpas.
Yeah.
For whoever's listening. Now, Josh, you join us today thanks to a new sponsor. Mm-hmm. Now, before we get to the ad, because we'll get to the ad later in the episode, just want to know what the name of the company is that sponsored your appearance here today.
Don't lose it. Foot lose it.
Don't lose it, foot lose it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing that ad later in the
My foot's
episode.
tapping already.
Yeah.
Getting excited.
Sinner. All right. I don't know if that's an appropriate reference or not.
Don't know.
We shall see. So today we're going to kick off a new series. We're not going to necessarily do these back-to-back episodes because we don't want people to check out for like 3 months. But this is episode 1 of our whom to hire, how to hire.
What do you think?
I'm gonna go.
Who?
I think who.
I like
Less pretentious, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think grammatically whom to hire is correct, but
Or shower curtain.
I think
as
it
a
is
diffuser.
accurate. I think it's right. I won that one.
That is a little
all right.
hot on Josh right now.
we're going to go with...
It's good. It's good. Roll with it.
I think the spirits have made very clear to us that this is the Who to Hire series.
Yep.
Today we're going to jump into the role of producer, which, as far as I can tell, no one I've ever worked with knows exactly what that means. But we're going to see if we can figure out at least what it is you do day in and day out, and
Sure.
get to some ideas and thoughts to help people who are considering starting to work with a producer, who maybe haven't worked with a producer, whether that means that you are a business building an in-house team or looking to bring in a freelance producer, whether you're maybe a 1 or 2 man band, small production shop, and you've kind of managed everything yourself. I think bringing in a producer is a fantastic opportunity for those kinds of smaller
Even a
shops.
small agency like us, we've hired outside producers
Yeah.
a number of times.
Yeah, including you.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you won't speak the rest of the episode, that'd be fantastic.
Copy that.
Just that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, why don't we start with a baseline definition of producer? Why don't we start with what you do, kind of
Sure.
day in, day out?
Sure. So, in my current role, it is the department I work in is in production. We work closely with the account side in brainstorming ideas. We help them understand what's feasible from a budget perspective. A lot of times, a budget will come in, and an idea will come in, and they don't match. And
I think that happens a lot.
yeah. And it's, the client doesn't need to understand that. They just know they've got this. To them, we have a great idea, and this is what we're willing to spend for it. And the account person's going to say, you got it, we're going to make it work. And then they're going to turn to us and say, please, God, help us make this work. We've already said yes.
Yeah.
And that's what we do essentially is like, all right, how can we make this idea come to fruition? And that's goes all the way down to, maybe working with the writers to say, I see where your head's at, but if we're going to make an explosion and the car's going to flip, well, that's our entire budget. But how else can we do that? Is it an animation? Do we just spend an hour or so having a sketch artist draw that up? It could be as simple as a flip book. Like, how do we get the client what they want and what's been promised within budget and make money? I mean,
that may be why I'm so conflicted as a person, because I have to be the account person and the producer
right.
on most projects.
You're the person who has to both say, yes, we can do that, and figure out how we can do that.
Have you ever turned your own budget down? You've submitted your budget, and you're like, this is too much. Guys, I got to have a chat with this guy.
We've had something similar. Justin actually put together a budget and sent it over to me. I was on vacation, I think.
Maybe on a train.
I was on a train, or I was at the beach or something, and I came back, and it was just like, I think this is why we do this together.
We were supposed to make 3 videos, and we got 1 in the can.
Yeah, and you're like 75% over on 1.
Yeah.
So I hate to be this guy, but no. Shave $5,000 off that budget quickly.
Yeah,
I mean $7,500 if you can.
I've found myself in situations on previous projects where the client, we pitched the idea, and when we pitch the idea, it's like we're pitching the content, but we're pitching it along with a budget proposal as well. Like, this is what it's going to cost to shoot this. And the problem was they fell in love with the idea. I mean, we had our client, who was the head of that whole company marketing department, sobbing. She was in tears. It was a very emotional piece. And
it's got to feel good. Tell me more about that.
That felt awesome. And then I was like, how much is it? Well, it's $250K to make it. And like, sweet, we're going to give you about $160. So have at it. And we're like, wait, it's not happening. And eventually we shot exactly what we told them we would shoot.
Funny how that works
and
out.
It was $240,000, and we had $160. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you do it right, the numbers they don't lie. It is what it is, but we did cut some corners as best we could. We didn't have one location fee. We made it rain for free. It's like, you got to take.
Usually that involves a lot of singles.
Yeah. If you're going to make it, and like, a willing participant. We didn't have any, but it's just rain. Save it. Rain. Yeah.
So let's maybe use that one as an example. What were the things that you were responsible for? I mean, big picture, here's what we pitched, and here's what they've accepted, and here's your budget. Like, what are the individual line items that you're going through to make that happen? And I think part of it, too, is like, when exactly in the process do you kind of check in and you're a part of it? Is it before any writing happens? Is it after something's been written? And then, like, where do you check out?
Before or after
also
a contract?
as a
I'm curious about that. Like,
I think it varies by the size of the people asking, the company. If you work for a company that's 100 and some people and they've had a process that's been in place for 25 years, you kind of just roll into it. This particular project I was brought in once we knew we had money. The client called and said, hey, we've got this amount of money, and this is kind of where our head's at. They then go to the creative side, so creative director, associate creative director, some in-house directors, and they just sit there and have almost a brainstorming session based on the idea that they have, which spawned from the lady, the executive, her dad, used to work for the company that she worked for, and she's like, I can remember wearing he would come home and put his hard hat on my head. And so, like, to her, it meant a lot. And so we kind of took that a moment between them and, our writers just got to town and started writing this piece. And I'm still not there yet. I would have liked to have been involved much earlier. Obviously, I think the faster you can get in as a producer, the better. But, this, like I said, it developed, and by the time it got to me, it was like, hey, here's kind of what we're pitching. Give me a budget. And that's the first thing I did, was tap into other resources in-house. It was like, I know you guys have done this. Let's chat about what you think this is going to take. And, basically you break the script down and you figure out how many days it's going to take, how many crew members, what food's involved for, how many meals, like locations, gear, you name it, from top to bottom. And we came up with like $240. And that's when we found out we're at 160. And I don't think that was a backstab. I don't think they were like, oh, we don't have that. I think it was like, all right, we know that's what it would take to do it this way. But if we only had 160, how can we do it then? And then you got to start getting creative. I mean, you got to start figuring out, it's like, well, they like it. Like they kind of came to us with the idea. We wrote it. We're about to go in here and pitch it. She ends up sobbing and saying, I think it's great. It's like, oh, shit. Now it's hit the fan. Like, we've got to figure out how to do this for $160,000. And it's just unfortunate we couldn't do it. But on the other side of that, it was a very well-received video that the client, to this day, just raves about. And, the company that I worked for that shot this, we now use it as part of our promotional material. It's like, hey, we can do talking heads. We can also do some narrative stuff. Did that answer any? Because I can leave if I didn't get that out right. I can.
We'll edit it together.
Cool.
We'll put something.
So
We'll take the one thing you said and the other thing and put them together and take out everything.
We'll probably also redo this when you leave.
Cool.
Just in case.
Yeah, a lot of
we're not actually recording right now. We're just learning from you, and then we're gonna spit this back and forth. It's like, remember that project we did, right? Where the ladies used to wear Dad's hard hat.
I think I made her cry. Yeah.
Yeah, and she cried and we were like, we had the budget ready, 240, and then she's like, I got 160. Right? Like, it's gonna be a lot of that.
It's fine. Let's go with it.
Yeah,
I'm here to help.
Okay, good. Thanks.
So you feel like you jump in the even before so let's clear it. You work for an agency, right? A bigger agency. You jump in before the contract is in place to kind of help guide the creative from a budget standpoint. Is that mostly where you enter the picture?
I would say it depends on the client, because a lot of the clients that we currently work with,
you're an agency of record.
Yeah, and we've been there for years. And so it's just kind of like they just come to us and say, hey, here's what we're doing.
Right.
And we give them the thumbs up. Copy that. Let's roll. But no, it's to get it. I think getting in as early as possible. And that could be when the client calls our account team and says, heading into Q2 of 2020, we've got X amount of dollars, and we've got a campaign that we're trying to build some assets for. Is there any way we can, brainstorm with you guys? If that account lead then says, hey, coming down the pipe is this for this company, XYZ company, would you guys like to be involved? I mean, that's a no-brainer. Even and those meetings, I mean, we're pretty quiet, and we're just sitting there like a sponge absorbing it, because when it does come time to scripting and conceptualizing of the idea, we're already keyed into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, we may be just thinking about who we're going to source internally from a post side and, from a director's standpoint. Is this something where we're going to have to hire a freelance DP and director, or even a producer? Are we shooting it here, or are we shooting it in Istanbul? We don't know. But we're there, and we've already caught wind of it, where, on the other hand, is, hey, here's everything you need to know, and this needs to be done by Friday. Because that happens. And that's not, again, I'm not knocking the account side or, the project management side. Sometimes that's just what the timeline they're given. But yeah, getting in early is like.
So you're in before the pre-production even starts, because you've got to have
for sure
concept nailed down, budget agreed to, and then pre-production starts. So what do you do during that part of the process, pre-production?
So I would say the pre-production phase is you've got an approval on script. Like, if you're trying to go into pre-production and you don't have a script approval, you're just setting yourself up.
In your experience, are you involved in the writing process?
Personally, no. I don't. I mean, I may get it. I may be part of the review. So, we have on staff writers, and a lot of times some of our creative directors are the ones writing the content. But they'll, being that we've been in early on the project, they know we know, and so we have a group Slack or group G-Chat that we're a part of, and we can just kind of monitor what's happening, and when the documents start coming in just for internal review to make sure we're all on the same page, we'll give it a read.
Well, that way you get to know if a car all of a sudden in the new version flips over and has a flag.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, I don't know if I would say that we have a say in what goes in that process, but I think it's a conversation that could be had much easier because we've been a part of it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Whereas if I come in, if they hand it to me and it is what it is, it's like.
And you've built
My
some
hands are
trust
tied.
with the creatives, with the client, however you're involved. You've built some trust, and I think that's important.
Right. So yeah, you have an approved concept script, and dates are huge before you go into pre-production. If you don't have dates, again, you're just setting yourself up for failure. I mean,
Dates meaning, project due
shoot
here.
date. All the dates from a it depends on like what your role as a producer is. Are you a some people will call it like a line producer who's on set and they're managing all of that.
Every receipt and every
all
every
that.
cent
Or are you a
spent.
post producer, which means like once it's over and it's in the can, it comes to you and you're scheduling what
Right.
editors doing what and the dates that you're getting, edits. So I mean, the way where I work now, it's like basically when I'm in pre-production phase, that means we're in the hiring of crew. We're trying to get gear figured out. Casting, if it's a narrative piece, I may not work directly with the account team or the client as far as like scheduling, the on-air talent. So if it's like an SME, source material expert, and they're
Subject matter expert.
there you go.
Just for
Either one. I like source material expert.
source material. Oh.
Either.
I didn't even hear that part. I was thinking, wait, what does that mean again?
He was just already knowing
Subject
he wanted to
matter,
correct
source
whatever you
material.
were
Source
saying.
material expert.
Source
Good.
material expert. I like that.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's
It's wrong, but that's
it's not correct. I don't know most of
That's
what
okay.
I'm
He
saying.
says GIF too, and not GIF. So.
I've kind of made a transition. I kind of walk the fence that now
I eat GIF.
Exactly.
with a J.
Hey, there we go. There we go. But at any rate, here we are.
So casting on air talent.
And then just basically being that point of contact for all these folks to collaborate, because I would say 96% of the stuff that we create, we have an internal director who's directing.
Mm-hmm. You're almost like a hub. And everybody
We're
else,
close to a
every team-
production like house. It's real close. That's just not what we are.
Yeah.
Because we do hire freelance cinematographers and audio and
Yeah,
the
keeping
rest
those
of the
people
crew.
on at all times is
Oh,
expected.
Yeah, I mean, you're not shooting every day. It'd be different. But being the person, who's the middle point, I like being a part of all those conversations.
That's what I meant hub. Like everyone's kind of reporting to you a lot of the project details and
Absolutely.
flows all through you.
Yeah, and you're going to give, a lot of the okays to purchases or some creative decisions on art department or casting in the beginning. I mean, it's like, hey, talent agency X, I need 20s, male and female, and they'll send all those along, and I can look at them quickly and just be like, hey, this is our lot that we got. Take a look to the director, and just be that, and I get to negotiate rates for all that stuff too, so I'm keeping a close eye on budget that way.
Well, I think that's key too, is because you're establishing the budget that it's going to take to execute this vision,
Right.
But then you're also responsible for maintaining that budget.
Oh,
throughout,
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
right?
And
it's you can't just hand it off to someone, because Lord knows the
Yeah.
numbers you put together at the beginning, once freelancer rates and all that stuff starts to get negotiated, that stuff can blow up fast.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I have to write deal memos, and I have to SOWs, like all that stuff comes through me. And it's, some of those things are a pain, because you have to go in and change the literature for everyone, depending on job title. But it's just part of it. If you're going to try to again meet those numbers, it's like you got to have it.
It's fun. Everyone's got a day rate.
Oh yeah,
For the most part, you need to respect that. But there are times where like there's a low budget piece,
yeah,
and people are willing to comply or work on that because of either a relationship with you or the concept. But then again, there's also projects where you're getting paid way more than you should be,
Yeah.
and you that's where you make up for it too. I think
Yeah.
you give them like, you're gonna get a little extra on this one kind of thing.
I think it's huge in this field alone. I mean, and honestly, in every business world I've ever been in, I think I have a saying. It's like it's not what you know in the beginning; it's who you know. And then once you've met the right folks, you show them what you know, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Wow, you came through. Let's do that again." And then you're just building that Rolodex. And every producer that I've worked with that was worth their weight, it wasn't necessarily about them like walking around and saying, I know this and this and this and this. Instead, it's like, I can tell by the people I'm working with, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know you knew this person.
Being
like,
a producer,
she's amazing. And it's like, and just being a good producer is
it's all about knowing.
Yeah. Putting yourself, like
the
building that
relationships.
crew is huge. Like putting the right people in the right place to get it done is a lot of the times like what makes it work. You know what I mean? Like that piece that I just mentioned, it was my dream team crew. Like I knew it had to be, just the content needed it. It was a 5-day shoot, which is pretty grueling for, for this type of stuff. With a lot of location changes. And we were doing some somewhat dangerous stuff, even though we had professionals doing it, like messing with power. It was like, I've got to have these are the people I've got to have. And everybody that showed up just crushed it. And as big as it was, and as unfortunately as over budget as we were, I was just like, this is going to be special. And it was.
That's what's like awesome being on set as a producer and seeing that like the grip and the gaffer are buddies. They didn't know they were going to be on the same.
It's like the first day of school every shoot. It's like, yo, what's up, man? And you get that little bro hug, and it's like, how's your mom? I remember, you had said last time she had knee surgery.
It's like the call sheet is your roster or whatever that schedule is for the year. And you're like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Joe's going to be on this shoot.
I mean, it's true. It's the most real thing, like truest thing, if that's a word, I've ever felt in my life. I mean, when I used to work in feature films and I got my first job, I was just like, this is no way I'm doing this. And then 5-10 movies later, here I am, and it's literally like a family reunion. Every movie, it's like, oh, there's 160 people on this. I had no idea you were going to be here. What's up, dude? And it's honestly, that's what kept getting me hired, is like I would somehow impress the right person and be like, yeah, come on back and do the next one. It's like, all right. Made that work. But it's just,
Well, and an angle that I like about it too is like the more that you work with people and of course you're drawn to the people who are good to work with, right?
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Not just because they're good at their job, but because they're good on set, right? And they're fun and all that kind of stuff. But like you start to have the conversations about what people want to do.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So you've got an opportunity to take a grip who wants to become a gaffer, and maybe if it's a lower budget shoot, say, hey, I can actually bring you on as a gaffer for this for you to get experience.
Absolutely.
Right? Give them those opportunities too, that, it's just, it's about who you know and how you maintain those relationships. And that's, I think for someone like us, that's what when we go to a freelance producer, that's almost what we're looking for more than anything, is who's the network of people that that we don't know.
Yeah.
That we can get this thing done.
Yeah.
It's almost like when for any, B2B software company, you hire a salesperson because of their Rolodex.
Yeah.
Of who they know and what executives they know at what companies. And producers are just the same way.
Yeah.
And it all starts from like, when they were 18 and just, a production assistant and working their way through the
100%.
industry.
Yeah. I mean, I went to film school at School of the Arts in Winston-Salem.
When did you graduate?
2014.
Okay.
Second oldest guy in the school. No joke.
Well, because you were like a lineman or something. For
I built power
right?
lines for 10 years. Yeah. And it's a crazy story. But I ended up graduating from there, and it's like the first job I got out of college, which is that it never happens this way ever. Well, let me back up. I had worked on 2 features and a television show while in college. So the movie, it's a movie called You Are Here, and it has like Owen Wilson. I can't think of the other actress's name. Amy Poehler and Zach Galifianakis. Well, they shot it on campus. They shot it like on our stage 6, and I ended up being assistant to Owen Wilson. So I was like, all right, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So Owen and I were like,
how much do I owe you to do this?
Yeah. So
this
Owen
is
and
awesome.
I like kind of developed a relationship. I ended up spending like 3 years with him, but like when I was a graduate and I was on my own, and I was like, this is, I'm not worried about the school getting me work. My first job was a producer of a CSX train, the company CSX train commercial. And I was like, I'm going to crush this. I was scared to death. But I think what sold it was when I got there, the only thing I knew was to just work. And so I showed up to set and like, I was gripping. I was PAing. Like I wasn't relying on anybody because I was so scared that something was not going to be done.
As a producer,
right.
you were.
I was, dude, cleaning trash up. Seriously.
Not a union set, I take it.
Not at all. I was carrying sandbags, and people were just like, what is happening here? But I used that as, they got real comfortable with me. They're just like, this dude's not afraid to do anything.
Right.
And it kind of, I felt like it kind of took me into the next phase of, I worked on features for a while after that.
Grips and gaffers, they want to work with you if you'll put the grunt work in.
Oh, 100%.
Sometime. Yeah.
And a lot of times, like those old school guys who are union,
right.
they don't want you touching their stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not because like they just don't know if you know how to.
Sure.
They don't want you getting hurt on their watch.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And if like you've proved yourself time and time again, and that's what I did. I mean, once I got out of features and I had moved here to Raleigh and kind of got into more of the commercial world as a freelancer, I was PAing a ton. And, if you become a good PA, that's what you are. Like, and you're going to be hired on every shoot as a good PA.
Production assistant.
Yeah.
Sorry, some people may not know.
No, that's valid.
We don't ever want to underestimate or overestimate our audience.
No, and
we know we have
shouldn't.
a wide swath of listeners,
but when you
source material expert.
after you've PA'd for a while, you start saying, it's like, I'd really like to coordinate for you, or let me know what else there is. And honestly, I saw the price difference in a PA and a grip, and I was just like, I built power lines for 10 years.
I can carry shit.
I can lug some sandbags, and I worked with a great gaffer out of Wilmington, Terry O'Dean. If you
just worked with him recently.
I mean, dude's legit as they come.
Yeah.
He realized I was a lineman, and it just kind of like, 100%, let's go. And he was showing me the ropes, and it was great. And I'd taken a couple PA jobs when there were no grip jobs, and then I found the job I have now. And I think the reason why I got hired was I had built my, Rolodex of people up. It's like, such and so. Yeah, I worked with him the other day. And, okay. And so you've gripped, yeah. Is that it? No, I PA'd and whatnot. And so I was brought onto this company, and my former boss, Alicia, was just, I think she just saw something, was like,
Works hard.
Yeah, well, that, and I think she
has relationships.
She knew immediately that she was like, this may not be what your focus is the gear guy, and I see that. But once you establish yourself here, we'll work on jobs, and she made it possible. I mean, she really helped me get to a point where I was, I guess, more confident in myself to run a full shoot from start to finish.
So how important do you feel like film school is to a producer?
I mean, it's what you make of it, really. I mean, we had a saying, when I went to my interview there, I had to sit in front of like 3 different professors, and every one of them just looked at me and my resume, and they're like, I don't understand. I was 30 years old, and they're just like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know now. I thought, and they're like, well, you've been building power lines for 10 years. You could walk on any set there is with this background and say, I just want to be an electric. And they'd be like, absolutely, go get some gloves, right? Go fill some paperwork. And I was like,
what direction did you take in film school?
Producing.
Okay.
Yeah, so School of the Arts is run a little different. It's more of a conservatory. So it's like year 1, you learn like 7 different disciplines.
Yep.
And then you kind of narrow it down. Some kids get kicked out because that's just kind of what they do. They only have room for 10 in each.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to stay in. I think they've kind of gotten lax over the years with that. But at any rate, I got into the producing program, and it's funny. I thought, I feel like, I guess this is a broad statement, but a lot of kids go to film school because they want to be a director. You know what I mean? It's like, I just want to be a director. Not really knowing what a director does.
Right.
Because
it's the most glorious job.
For sure. They're the ones that get, how many times do you hear the producers getting any credit? Like,
just at Best Picture.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. But nobody really stays for that. They're
but
just
there's a reason.
There's a Best Picture because Caprio was in it. Not, you know what I mean?
Ben broke this down for me. This is like the first time I really understood, okay, that's what a producer does. is when Ben said, the producer is the person who goes up and accepts the Best Picture award.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who made everything happen.
Yeah.
And all day long they're problem solving and putting their finger in the wall, like the dam and just
protecting
fixing
the director from the studio and
yeah,
you know,
and
it's-
helping with the
it's-
writers when they need it and picking up a fucking sandbag.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got there. It was just kind of like I grew up as an actor, and I'd had an agent 3 or 4 times, and I thought in my mind I was like, well, maybe I can just learn this side of the camera, so when I'm not in front of the camera, I can still be making money. And my second year, I created it. We got $500 to make a 5-minute movie, and you had to write it yourself, and you were on stage and all this. I'm sorry, first year movie, no money, but you're given a stage and like a DVX camera, and your classmates are your crew.
Yeah.
And so I had this movie, like this little thing I wrote where basically this woman's husband has died in war. And so
Sounds
she's
hilarious.
It's the funniest thing ever, dude. I'll show it to you. It's amazingly funny. You'll cry.
You'll laugh, you'll cry.
Mostly cry. But she basically sleeps in front of the casket like the last night, like just as like she can't leave his side. And so we didn't have a casket. I went into our production coordinator's office. I was like, hey, do we have a casket and props? And she's like, nah. I mean, we have a small one, which is morbid, but you can, I was like, nah. I mean,
It's a small man.
Her husband was a normal sized guy. And so I didn't know I wanted to be a producer, but I made a couple calls, and within like an hour, I had a $2,500 casket donated to the school for free. And so I went back in her office. I was like, hey, about that casket. She's like, it's in there if you want it. And I was like, no. Do you do like receipts, like donation receipts? And she's like, why? I was like, I got a casket. It's on its way. And she's like, hell yeah. I kind of felt I found like a knack in getting shit done, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter. I'm not, I feel like a good producer will do whatever it takes to come through. And, and that's not a negative thing. It's just like you're willing to put your finger in the dam and, buy people time to finish if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
We had that same shoot we needed that I was telling you about earlier. It wasn't on the day, but it was like 2 or 3 days prior. It's like, man, it sure would be good if we were raining. Like if it was like a full-on rain, we could show what these guys go through. They work outside, beautiful weather, cold weather, rain, that'd be great. And we just don't have the budget for it.
Can you make it cold outside?
And I was like, let me make some calls. And within, like, I want to say 30 minutes, I had Apex Fire Department donating their time.
Jeez.
Come over with 2 pump trucks. They hid out of frame, and we're shooting water 50 feet high. And it's by the time it makes its turn, it's like raining, and it looks amazing. So, it's just, what do you, I love no. I love no. No's my favorite thing in production. It's like, somebody's like, I don't think we can do it, man. And I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
We'll
I'll
we'll
make it
figure
happen.
that out,
I think it's about time for our sponsors spot.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll be back in a second here.
This episode is sponsored by Don't Lose It, Foot Lose It, Bad Day, Nothing Going Your Way, Traffic Maybe, Unattainable Timeline at Work. Are you about to lose it? Well, don't lose it, Foot Lose It. From the brilliant minds of 2 people that watched that 1984 hit Footloose comes a new dance craze sweeping the land. If you're about to lose control, don't lose it, Foot Lose It.
Yes, very excited to have these guys.
Yeah.
So before,
It's kind of like Zumba, right?
it is a lot. So before, like, as you know, Josh, because you were part of this episode, and you're the reason, or they're the reason you're here. We all had to go take a couple classes.
Sure.
A month's worth of classes.
Sure.
And I might add, Ben's looking really tight.
I lost 12 pounds.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I don't think they
And you stopped
anticipated
smoking.
that. I don't think
No,
that
I
was
Started smoking.
I don't think
yes.
that was the intention. I think the intention was to really figure out how to deal with issues, or emotionally, anger. But
I'm still pretty angry.
what are you angry about?
Yes,
know?
kids.
There you go.
Hate 'em.
That has nothing to do with work.
No, that's right.
And when we went to the first couple of classes, it was all work related.
Yeah.
How to deal with your.
They do have funny uniforms. They really want you to wear the uniforms though.
Well, yeah, because again, this is taken from the 1984 hit Footloose.
Yeah.
And if you'll remember
So
the
you had to wear
scene,
jeans and a tight white T-shirt.
that, or they also love the gray sweats. There's the gray sweats.
And you also have to, either continuity wise or like you have to hide a beer, like when you're starting it, right?
Right.
Like when you
well, you're greeted when you come into the first class. Everybody gets a beer and a cigarette.
Right.
and a pre-half smoked cigarette.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So my favorite part was the throwing of the beer. You just there's that big wall that has the throw your beer here.
I gotta say though, my favorite part was just thrashing yourself mercilessly against the pallets.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, just like you don't care. I mean, that really helps.
It does.
It really helps put things in perspective.
I will say too, in their new studio, they've actually sanded those pallets, so it doesn't.
Oh, less splinters next time.
See,
that's
smart.
nice.
So they do listen to their feedback cards.
They're taking this very serious.
Okay, that's good to know.
They're really putting effort into it. Now, as a matter of fact, I don't know who's doing it, but I hear that they're producing a video to start going with the package to help promote it. So maybe a couple episodes down the road, we can drop a link.
Yeah, for
That'd
sure.
be great.
That'd be awesome.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic.
So it'll be good.
Yeah.
They also have an aquatics version of this too, right? Where you practice, you do the dancing in the water.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more for the elderly.
Advanced and elderly.
So, yep.
And I understand they're considering a spin-off kind of based on Flashdance too.
Ooh, that would be good.
There's
Now,
just
that's
a lot
new
of
to me,
dancing
but
and then pulling water down on yourself from some kind of industrial fixture or something.
Yeah. And I'm sure that also has something to do with, too, is like the weight loss, because the socks and the spandex.
Yeah, losing lots of water weight is, okay.
Interesting.
Well, welcome. Don't lose it.
Footloose
it.
Yeah, fantastic.
Proud to have them on board.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you to Don't Lose It, Footloose It for allowing Josh Barker to be here with us today. Let's jump right back into our producer conversation here. If you were in a position to hire a producer,
Sure.
Either you're working at maybe a small agency that is looking for their first in-house producer, or you're working for a company that maybe produces a lot of its own content, has a small in-house team. What kinds of qualities would you look for in someone that you'd like to bring on as a producer? Experiences, qualities, those kinds of things, whether or not they have previous experience being a producer.
Right.
Because I think that's part of it too, is sometimes just it's your first time being a producer.
Yeah, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, for us, it is, obviously a pretty run-of-the-mill start is, you look at reels or resumes and you just kind of build it off that. But that's a very small window into who they are and how good they are, I think. I don't think it's fair. So, we definitely meet if possible, or at least have some sort of call or Zoom interview where we just sit and chat with them. Another thing I do is, I like giving them the content and saying, what's this look like to you? And they can come back. We do a lot of stuff out of state or overseas where we're not, due to budget constraints, we can't go. It costs us way less to hire somebody locally to knock the job out than for us to go do it ourselves. And so it's like, I'm looking for things like, do they get it? Do they get what we're trying to create here? Does it make sense?
So there's a culture.
Yeah, with that, I mean, do they just understand the content? Like,
sure.
Obviously, if you're shooting something for some tech company, you're not going to. You may not understand it. The quantum physics, quantum mechanics. Let's just be honest.
Right.
If you're not in that world, you're just not in it. But it's not hard to read a script and say, oh, yeah, I get what you're doing here. But I get their take on it, and throw me a budget at it, and are you available? Is this something that you're interested in? And then it's like you can kind of gauge off the conversation if that's somebody you want to work with, and if they're I don't want to use the word agreeable, but if they get it, and you get along with them, and it's like, man, I feel like this is somebody that gets what my company does, then that's a good way to find people. And two, it's use what those folks again. I mean, we don't usually do it locally, but again, we do have a couple of freelance producers we tap for our work locally. And it's, we'll call them up and say they're busy. They're booked that week. they'll start giving us names, and you can take it and say, all right, this came from a very credible producer that we've used 100 times, that we know very well. If they say they're the one, we just go with it. And of course we go through the same process. Show me your resume and your reel, and kind of give us your feedback on what you think this is, and then we go from there. But
what if you were like, let's say you owned Don't Lose It, Footloose It. I imagine soon after this podcast is released, business will pick up quite a bit. They've got a lot going on. They want to make some videos, right? And you're trying to hire an in-house producer. I feel like this is maybe a different vibe, maybe a different thing you're looking for.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on. If you're looking for an in-house producer, you're looking for a production company, or are you
explain that more, because I think that's interesting.
Yeah. So like a full-on production company isn't necessarily. Like a full-on production company isn't the same as a marketing agency or an ad agency. They literally will take production, say, a video shoot, photo shoot, and from the ground up, they execute said project. Concept, yeah. If it's
so, hiring a production company, you're handing them a concept with a script, essentially, and a budget, and saying, "Can you make this?" Is that?
Yeah,
more or less the way you see it.
Yeah, and it just depends too. You can kind of set those parameters up from the beginning, but some people like to have creative say in what they shoot and what they do, and then some don't. Some it's like, you tell us what we're doing and we'll do it, and you guys are going to be the creatives, and then we're going to execute it.
Yep.
That's how it's just a different set of rules for both, though, that everybody has to abide by. Otherwise, there's a lot of gray, murky water that gets kind of weird.
So I want to ask, do you feel like a growing company, if they're going to do some hiring so that they can start to do more video, do you feel like a producer is the right role, or is somebody better to hire on initially?
I would say,
when is the right time for them to hire a producer, maybe?
When you've got a schedule that is becoming almost like it's unable to keep up with it, and you need somebody to come in, and it's you could call it the lines between like a production coordinator and a producer aren't that different, but I wouldn't put the weight of like putting your foot down on a production coordinator. It's like, I'm gonna give you the ability to say yes or no to all of this, and then I'm just gonna sit over here in the back. I wouldn't do that, but that's kind of the difference. Is the producer's going to say definitively, we're doing this, and they own it. And if it sinks, then they go down with the ship.
Sure.
Right? And that person's going to be held reliable and accountable for everything. Now, when do you hire one? It's like, well, are we at a point where we've got enough work that we can keep this person busy? Because a good producer should be able to juggle multiple jobs at one time. I don't know what's too much. Back in the day, in the early days of film, you only had one producer. Nowadays, you've got 30 people accepting the best picture.
And there's a lot more roles on, like, the credits are way longer now, too.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
So maybe if I hear you correctly, when let's say a marketing director, marketing coordinator, whatever their role is in the company, grows to the point where they are basically a producer, is the time for them to hire a producer so they can go back to running SEO campaigns and doing what they're supposed to do. Like, maybe that's the right time.
I would say so, because
if you're scheduling locations, if you're casting, if you're helping the writer or whoever is part of that process, if you're doing all those things and you can't get your actual job done,
for sure,
it's probably time to hire a producer.
For sure, yeah. And essentially that's kind of what happened to me in my current position. Is I was brought in to be like the gear guy. Our company, we have our own box truck and our own package that we send out, and it was kind of my job to maintain it. And then when we had shoots, I would go to every local shoot and be a crew member. It wasn't really, if we needed a PA or a grip or whatever I could do to help facilitate the shoot, I was just there to do it. But it got to a point where it's like, we know you want to produce, so we're going to start giving you tasks. And eventually those tasks started to outweigh my ability to do my other job. to the point where, when Alicia left and then our other in-house person left, I was the one producing, and I'm not doing any of the gear stuff. It's just sitting there. Then it became time to hire. It was like, and either, promote me into that position. But eventually what it was is like, all right, we're going to reevaluate that department and see who needs to be what. And we've brought on now like a production manager, which is, again, it's another form of producer.
Right.
So, and my title's production specialist. I specialize in production, and again, that's, I think, what a producer does. It's even though there's more on the front end for that title, I guess, and the back end, it still all boils down to you don't have that week of production. You don't have a front end or a back end. It's, without it, you can't create. So
there are a lot of producer roles. And since you've been in the film world, you've been in the large agency world, I'm going to throw out a couple different producer roles. This is kind of a left turn here, but just for fun.
Funsies.
Explain
just for funsies.
Maybe what
in my own words or
in your own words.
Okay, good.
What these producer roles are.
Are we then comparing his answers to what you have there on Wikipedia? Is that what that is?
I'm just looking at the title. I'm not going to be like I'm not going to say wrong or right.
Sweet.
So there's no pressure on him.
There's no pressure. I just because you've got a wide range of experience from film
and
to
honestly,
agency.
It could be. I mean, like we talked before we started. It's like, man, you look up the word production and good luck.
Right.
Yeah.
You could be working in a chicken house.
Field producer.
Someone who is there in the field. Set.
On set.
Yeah.
Okay.
They basically run the logistics of, getting permission to go there and getting the crew there and, parking and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Skip that one. Associate producer.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I would say they are, you could almost say a assistant producer. Because they...
That also says, or assistant producer.
Yeah, I think they, in my own words, they help facilitate the shoot with the guidance of the producer. And a lot of times they may take the lead on some things, but they're going to look up and be like, we square, everything good?
And they're probably working with a producer who's working on a couple, maybe like
Absolutely.
2 or 3 feature films or something, right?
Absolutely.
Well, or even in this B2B world that we're typically talking about, I think it's workload management.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You get to a point where, I don't need to be writing releases
100%.
and collecting releases. I don't need to be, negotiating maybe I needed to sign off on the location fee, but I don't need to be coordinating with those people on site.
Right.
Then you would bring in someone to then be your associate or assistant
and a lot
producer.
of times, like in the world, in feature films, like an associate producer may be brought on because they have a relationship with someone that they, this person can bring a certain, whether it's a celebrity or talent, or if they're like, I've got, this is going to be a big art department film, and I've got such and so in my right pocket, and I know I can pull that card, and we'll give you producer credit, associate producer credit for that, and that's how some of those things are divvied out. I mean, is the workload the same? No, but is it taking that job off of your producers and your executive producers? So yeah.
The next one I was going to ask is co-producer, which I feel like is a lot of that as well. Like where I have, like, if I'm George Lucas and I have Industrial Light and Magic, I could be a co-producer just to help with some of the post-production craziness.
Right.
But I'm not there working with people on set or the actors or anything like that. I'm just there to help do this specific task. And I have the connections to make that happen.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird if you think about like the power of the word producer in the film world and kind of what we do and how you get it and what it does for you. If the only thing I'm doing is bringing a name, I'll just use that because it's kind of, I think it's probably the most relatable. But if it's like if you know someone and you get that person on, we're going to bring you on. You're going to be one of the producers. We're going to give producer credit. It's like, well, what does that give you? Down the road, you know what I mean? Like if somebody says, "Oh wow, you helped produce that movie XYZ," well, that's cool. Well, I've got another project coming up. Well, sorry, my role, I only brought whatchamacallit, and they're terrible for this film. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just, there's some gray, it's just a lot of gray area, but I think to go back to the original ask, co-producers work like side by side with each other. And again, it may be because they have multiple shows that they're working on.
Right.
And one just is focused on one project, one's focused on another.
It might even be like location based, right? Like
100%.
I have an LA vibe and I can organize those 2 shoots out there,
Right.
and you've got a New York vibe. And
Yeah, and too, I mean, I think a co-producer's, probably more, obviously has more of a say in the whole scheme of things than what an associate would.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, it's just, it could just be friends, It's like, I've got a project I'm working on now that I was brought on to, and, that's the phase we're at, is figuring out what we are to this project. We've got 5 of us, a director.
5 producers and a director.
So, actually, no, it's a director, a writer, and a producer is one person.
One person, yep.
Then
Happens a lot.
It does, yep. And then we have another producer who found the money, and so he's there pulling a lot of the strings. And then you have 3 of us that the hands down reason why we were brought on was all because of who we know. And it's like when you're working in the independent feature film world, and you don't have any big studio backing, and you've got somebody getting ready to write you a $650,000 check. It's like, where's my money going? You got to make it stretch as far as you can. So it's like, well, I've been in North Carolina my whole life and working in this business now for about 10 years. It's like, I got quite a few people that I can call and probably get some significant breaks. You know what I mean? And so they're like, that's producer credit.
Yeah.
And it's, essentially you're producing. I mean, you're at a very high level.
You're organizing the
Right.
shoot in some ways,
Yeah.
bringing resources to
Yeah.
the shoot.
I mean,
making it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Make it happen. Getting shit done is kind of like the mentality of a producer.
I got 2 more. Line producer.
So a line producer, I'm just going to say it from like my feature film background.
Okay.
They were on set running the ship. Like, they're the boss.
Say,
Period.
no, you can't have extra pineapple on craft services.
If that's the argument, yeah.
Right.
I mean, essentially, that line producer is going
Or
to be
no,
on
we're
set.
not going into overtime today. We need to make this shot happen in 2 more takes.
Yeah, they
or we're
will
done.
come in and shut it down. Like,
There's a lot of power in a line producer.
A lot of
because they have
power.
the purse strings.
Exactly. They're the ones that are looking at that budget and saying, you guys are about to bone me. I mean, it's funny. I worked on a movie in New York, and the office space we were in, none of the, actual offices, most of it was cubes.
Yep.
But there was a couple offices that just ran down the center, and that's where all, the higher-ups stayed. But none of the walls touched the ceiling. They were, 6 inches shy, which it got colorful. And our line producer, she would go in there and shut her door, and I think she, for a minute, lost focus that you're not in clothes. You know what I mean? And she would go off. And I was like, if I ever had anything come across my desk, and I was just like an office PA at the time, if I had something come across my desk that needed to go to her, I'd be like, yeah, that'll be in a good 10, 15 minutes after that phone's been hung up and she's moved on.
Yeah.
Because
there's 100 decisions you have
the
to make
stress
every
that
hour.
she was under, I couldn't imagine. At this stage in my life, I may be closer to ready for that, but then I was just like, what on earth have I started? What path have I got on? But yeah, I mean, they kind of run it. They've just got to be on every level. They have to be connected, and
they have to stick their nose into almost everything.
Every conversation. Yeah, I mean, it's
a tedious job,
and I think it's one of those hated jobs. People, you come on set,
you're
people
not
aren't
the favorite.
pumped.
Right.
Yeah, you're not.
But
Snap, what's up?
I think projects need that.
I do too. I
Right?
think that's a good checks and balances there to have somebody come in that's
objective in every level, client, and agency or whatever
especially
it is.
I think especially B2B. And again, we don't really run from a line producer standpoint. We just don't have the need.
Well, again, it's a division of labor.
Yeah,
it's a division of labor
for sure. Yeah, but I mean, we kind of act as line producer because we go to shoots. I mean, most every shoot that I do, whether it's a local shoot to Raleigh Durham or whatever, or travel, I go. And
Well, a lot of the shoots that we do, like we know our budget so well going into the shoot day that we know that if we saved like $85 on craft services, we know
can
that
go buy a
like
prop.
if we need to pick up like some eyeglasses as a prop, we got an $85 budget
Right.
for it.
And-
Right? I mean,
yeah, and it's also different too. Like this size of company, like versus the one I work for now,
Sure.
where is like we come into it with like a 25% margin off top, so I don't even get to touch my budget until I know that is gone.
yeah.
So the company's making what we're aiming to make,
Right.
and anything extra is like a bonus. But that's really not how budgets are designed to work. I mean, you don't. I mean, if you save money, that's always a good thing. But if you budget something, it's to come to zero,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
It's not, yeah.
And so you know, if you've budgeted it right, you'll do that every time, and that could be extra pineapples.
I
and
think as a
craft services.
creative agency, you're hoping to make the best thing possible. So you go to zero as much as you can.
Absolutely, yeah.
And-
And that's that's kind of my take on it. Is like I'm not. It's funny. I'll never go and claim to be like an agency's type producer. I'm a content guy. Like, if I have a director come up to me and say, it's like, look, man, we've promised these people this is what we're going to give them, and I really think we need rain. I'm going to make it rain. Like, you know what I mean? As hard as it may be, I'm going to go out and I'm going to ask
Yep.
myself. I'm not going to put it on location person unless I've got that location person I know can do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to make sure creatively we're getting exactly what we said. So I would call myself a creative producer where, I like to go out and make sure we're executing on what we've promised.
I'm sorry, that's not on Wikipedia, so
That's fine. It's
it's
I
not,
think I
it's
made it
not
up.
legitimate.
Yeah, I made that one up.
Yeah.
I mean, you could Google it. It's fine. It's there.
Oh yeah, it'll come up.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about it before.
But
Yeah,
mean,
that is a role we've
yeah.
actually considered because, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's good to have that person as well, because then you've got somebody willing to go like fight till the end to get exactly what the
look
client
or
wants.
whatever,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we did a shoot in St. Pete, Florida. It was a talking head piece, but we had like government officials there, and so it was like getting kind of awkward. You've got people coming in. You've got like a security company, like surrounding the hotel. And they have to come to you as the producer, and they're like, hey, my name's such and so, this is the team. And you look back, and it's just a bunch of rough-looking dudes in white shirts with glasses. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And so I go in, and I look at where we're going to be filming this, and the risers they brought in to create the stage looked like they looked horrible. No joke. The client sent a letter to, like, the company, and they were just like, everything was great. It went off without a hitch. And it has to be because your team's willing to do whatever. And they sent a photo of me putting carpet down on this stage. And they were just like, what are we going to do? So I went to the hotel. I'm like, we got to fix this. And he's like, this is what we got. And I was like, you are okay with this? Like, we're shooting here. Everybody's going to know this is where we're shooting. And this is, you're okay. And they're like, this is what we have. So I go next door, hotel. I'm like, hey, bud, you have anything? And they're just like, yeah, sure. Come look. Same thing. Beat all to pieces. And I was like, there's a different way. And I just went and bought carpet and put it down myself and vacuumed it and cleaned it up. And it looked great, and nobody was the wiser because of it, except for those that saw it happening. And I take pride in that. Like, I enjoy figuring those moments out when you've got government officials there. Don't mess around.
Yeah.
And one, because that's going to tell your client, like, we care as much as you do about what you're trying to do. And I'm going to be on my hands and knees for a minute, putting some flooring down. I'll be back in a minute. Like it was. Like I said, I take pride in those moments.
Yeah. We
as a
shot the
producer.
Watergate together.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like, officials in and out of that hotel every single day. We have to drive the grip truck around 4 times through the, because you can't stay there for 10 minutes or whatever.
yeah.
You have to drive the grip truck around. You do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So- Last one, executive producer.
That's the head cheese. That's the one.
Head cheese is kind of a gross meat product. Have you ever had it?
Nope.
It wasn't head cheese. It was head cheese.
Got it. Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
You got me right on the on the tilt there. I was like, oh, this is going to go back in the can. Oh man. They are, they're pretty much signing the checks and giving the official And
line producer
again,
can say no, and then the executive producer come in and say,
could override it.
it's going to happen.
Yep.
I'll make it. I'll make it work.
At any point, it's like, you know what? If this is going to be what we need to make this thing happen, let's do it. And you're probably going to have.
And they're both doing their job. The line producer says no.
Yep.
And the executive producer says yes.
Yeah.
And everyone's right.
Absolutely, everybody's right. I've only worked on a couple of projects where I've actually met like an executive producer, and it's kind of funny too because I feel like some of these titles are given out for people just to
Right.
give a name to it. I did Masterminds. I don't know if you saw it. It had like Owen Wilson and Zach Galifianakis and Kristen Wiig in it, and the executive
Was
producer.
that political, like, comedy?
Masterminds?
Yeah.
It was the one where back in like '96, it was the largest bank heist of all time in Charlotte. It was like $17 million.
Wow.
Yeah, check it out. It's kind of a funny
Cool.
movie, but Lorne Michaels, who's obviously the creator of
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live, was the EP.
Okay.
And so he was on set, and I was just watching
He's
him.
EP on a lot of shit.
But it's what he brings to
Right.
it's the clout he brings to that
Exactly.
project. I mean,
So he'll get that film will get better financing because he's a
course.
producer.
I'm not saying the man doesn't do anything.
Right.
I guarantee you he'll
he'll
got
make a
work
call.
to
He'll
do.
make something happen.
But yeah, he's not out beating the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like his name's on it. People are like, oh,
He's working from his office.
Yeah.
As a producer. That's
Sure.
an executive producer. They don't go. They don't have to go anywhere.
I feel like in the video for business world, the client is almost essentially the
they
executive
can say,
I agree.
producer.
yeah, we'll spend an extra $2,000 on that location.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
fine.
yeah, because essentially it's their content.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones that are
Yeah.
in charge of all
Yeah.
of it, and it's their budget that they're
Yep.
spending the money on. And a lot of times in what we do, those things come in minutes before the due date, and you have
Sure.
to figure out how to fix it.
All right. I think the biggest takeaway for me, honestly, is that the definition of producer is the person who's responsible for making it happen.
Yeah,
Because you can have an associate producer, you can have a line producer.
They're all
That
responsible.
That can be the producer's job. But if it's one person doing all those things, or there's a dozen people, ultimately it comes back to the producer, who's responsible for making this content piece, shoot, film, whatever it is, happen.
right.
Just period. Like full stop. That's that job.
Yep.
And I think it'll be interesting at the end of this series to maybe discuss, to kind of wrap it all up with when to bring in certain people in that, given different scenarios. And kind of the evolution of
But in terms of a project, producer, like, if you're going to have one producer, they need to be there throughout the
Yes.
entire process.
If it's
Whereas
one,
an
yeah,
editor,
absolutely.
it's nice to have him in during the writing process. Sometimes it's nice to have him in on set, and then of course post production. But a producer is like the consistency.
well, yeah, and when I said when, I meant more like whom to hire first.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, you may who to
We
hire
did
first.
decide on who. He did. He
Who?
decided on who.
I think the diffusion decided.
I thought that was like
That was a
the
grip
light
thing.
was shining.
Yeah,
on the
and it was
answer.
like,
I thought it was like
whether it's hired.
yes.
Yes. So who to hire first? Right? Because you could totally, if you're building an in-house team, you could bring in that like director, videographer, editor person who's your first hire, and that person could then become your first producer.
Absolutely.
Because then you've brought in another videographer under that person, an
like
editor or whatever.
And as Josh said, a lot of times you'll find that writer, director, producer in one person.
Yeah.
And so if you're if
Absolutely.
you're looking
Yep.
for a first hire, that's probably the person.
Yeah.
And then they can hire out for camera or sound
Well,
or
you've
whatever
heard
it
this
is.
term before, right? Predator. Producer, editor.
No.
Oh man, they're good. I mean, the reason why is they understand the whole process.
Right.
Because post is a beast all in itself.
Yeah.
It is phase 2. Like
Tell them your line.
Which one?
The writer is the last edit, or the editor is the last writer.
oh yeah,
There's 3 opportunities to write in video, and it's write the script or whatever it
Writing
is.
the script, it's
screenplay.
on set, and then the editor is the last writer.
I fully agree with that. I actually had it happen in one of my college films. We could only have 15 minutes for this 4th-year film, and it was 22 minutes. The director was dead set on it, and he was like, I don't care if it shows or not. And I was like, dude, you're willing to like throw everybody else that worked hard
Yeah.
down the drain and just not let our movie show? And he's like, this is the movie that this is how it's written. And so they came to me as a producer, my faculty, and they're like, well, here's a moment for you to shine. They're like, you need to figure out how to shave 7 minutes off this thing, and I think you know who you need to talk to. So I just went to my editor and I was like, bro, this is what's called the final rewrite. Like, you get to rewrite this thing right now, tell the same exact story, but tighter. And he crushed it. Like, literally, that film.
It's amazing what can happen in post.
Yeah. You really can
even in
tell
unscripted stuff.
Whole different story. Yeah.
You can totally chop stuff down and make it still make it the right story, but go from 15 minutes to 2.
I mean, and it's one of the things I wish I knew how to do to edit. I wish I was an editor. Like,
it's good to get your start there.
It's a great place to start. I'm so glad I started there.
Yeah, I mean, you just know so much about the process, and
what you wish was shot. What do you wish was shot?
I wish there was more coverage, right?
Absolutely.
So then you get
Or
on
less.
set and you find yourself as a director someday. You're like, make sure we get enough coverage.
Absolutely.
Or we don't need all that stuff because I'm never possibly going to use
that's
all
producing
that
in a nutshell.
Well, and I think that's the thing too. Is like when you look at all of like us who started out as a one-man band, right?
Yep.
We had our own, right? You're writer, producer, director, editor, sound.
Yeah.
You're everything.
Everything.
And so really it's just as your career evolves, as your one-man band, little production company becomes an agency, whatever, all you're really doing is handing those individual jobs off to other people. And I think companies building in-house teams are the same way. They're going to start with that everything in one solution. And as they grow to 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, all they're really doing is taking stuff off of that first person so that they can focus more on this other stuff that they get
part
better
of the process.
Yeah, and again, it can even go full circle where it's like the people you meet along the way, that crush a certain area. It takes it off of you, and then you've built this team, and that's producing. You're building, the
That's
team.
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked about
No matter
this.
your resources.
Yeah.
We've talked about this in previous episodes too, where we find we're so thankful that we found people who are better at certain things than we are, right? Better editors, better shooters.
I agree.
So not only are you just taking it off your own plate,
Yeah.
but you're actually handing it over to people who are technically and creatively, whatever it is, better than you at that thing.
Yeah.
That means the piece is better.
Yeah, absolutely. That, to me, that's one of the things that I love to see on set is like a pro do what they do. You know?
Yes.
We work with some of the best cinematographers in the state, and if you've ever worked with Lighthouse out of Wilmington, Brad Walker, dude is legit. And to see him on set doing what he does, I'm just like, man. But I mean, we've got a lot of local guys that are crushing it.
Yeah.
And
One of the best sound guys just joined live here, Aaron Biddekoffer.
oh, Aaron, hey, what up, AB?
Hey, man.
Do you know how many times I hire that guy because he is arguably one of the best guys in the state?
The best in the state,
He's
yeah.
amazing, dude. And I never worry about it. And
Right.
it's kind of funny because like when I do put together a team that's that
There's a
good,
first
I have
person you
to
go to.
check myself and make sure I'm doing my job. I'm like, all right,
Right.
just check in with these people because they're going to be like, is he in the back sleeping? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's he doing? Well, they give me that comfort.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know going into a meeting, once we were done, and, we have like a post-mortem at work, and it's like, how was that shoot? I got nothing. I had the best guys that I could get.
Yeah. And
Like,
I
we
just
crushed it.
sat around, made
Yeah,
sure
no,
people
I
got
worked
food.
hard, guys.
Yeah.
I worked hard.
Upfront, hiring the right people.
Hurt my back. I lifted stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I found a carpet.
Yeah.
Put over stuff.
Yeah, I
vacuumed
put
it. Yeah.
Hey, I think it was ask Aaron, dude. This is great.
Was he on that
Aaron,
shoot?
no, Aaron was on a shoot in Durham
Okay.
here, and we had light issues, and we couldn't do anything about it because it was a skylight. I'm in, like, when I'm on set with a client, I dress differently just so that, one, I'm a better representation of the company I work for.
Sure.
But, two, I just feel like that as a producer, you
Suit
lead.
jacket?
I do a suit jacket. I don't do a tie, but I
No
will
tie,
button
okay.
up. And no hat,
Yeah.
comb it.
No
get
underwear.
Get a cut, obviously, daily. But I'm climbing up an exterior ladder to the 3rd floor of a place here in Durham with a sound blanket in my mouth to literally
To cover the
I'm
skylight.
passing doctors who are like studying, and they're like, there's a decently dressed man with
With a really nice head of hair.
with a blanket in his mouth, and I'm like, hey, I've climbed ladders, and I literally got up there to get the light out.
Yeah.
Like it's, I think it's that just being able to do that type of thing, and then hear these folks. Like, you used to make the comment of like finding people that are better. Well, it's like if you don't utilize the fact that they're better, if you try to butt in, you know what I mean.
You're gonna
It's like,
lose.
just let them do what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
cool.
All right. Well, it's time to hear from our sponsor one more
Thank our
time.
sponsor one more time. Another read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll give it a shot. This episode is brought to you by Don't Lose It, Foot Lose It. Bad day. Nothing going your way. Traffic, maybe. Unattainable timeline at work. Are you about to lose it? Well, don't lose it. Foot lose it. From the brilliant minds of two people who watched the 1984 Footloose comes a new dance sweeping the U.S. Don't lose it. Foot lose it.
I can't wait till our next class together. I've been having so much fun with you guys.
I'm actually not going to be here for the next one. It's 2 weeks. I'll be here.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Yep. But I look forward to the video. I look forward to their video. It's going to be sweet.
Yeah, that should
They
be
do
fun.
live stream the classes, so. you
Oh,
guys
that's
can check
actually
it
a good
out.
point.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. All right.
For paying members only.
Of course.
Get permission for that one.
All right.
All right.
Well,
thanks for joining us. It was
yeah,
real
this was
pleasure
fun.
having our first
Thanks for having
guest
me. Yeah.
outside of the company. It's kind of a big step for us and a bigger step for you to be
Much
a part of
bigger.
this.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
huge.
you're welcome.
No, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. Can I get parking validated?
No.
We have a stamp
How many
for that.
LaCroix have you had,
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Can you drive right now?
if you give us one LaCroix back, you can have your parking validated.
Well, I'm about there.
Okay.
You still have that can.
All right.
All right, well,
I
awesome
suppose-
having you. Thanks for coming.
thanks, guys, for
this
real
was
fun.
this was fun. And I suppose that's the end of the episode for anybody still listening. So don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, all those things that we're supposed to ask. Blah blah blah. Play out music, and then there's like this banter thing that we do where we talk about something completely unrelated.
Absolutely.
And then Anthony kind of.
But you know, because you've listened to probably every episode.
Oh, yeah, all of them, obviously.
Yeah.
What was your favorite?
The last one.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
That just came out
so
today,
good.
right?
Yeah.
On the way here.
Yeah.
Let's do it right here.
Yeah. What was that one about? What was that one
I
about?
listened to it this morning.
This one here's got me foggy. The one we just
Yeah.
did. This
Yeah.
one. The one we just shot.
Yeah. No,
me
clearly, because
foggy.
I actually listened to it this morning, but I can't remember.
I got the notification. I had the notification on the phone. This is the evolution.
Oh, the evolution.
This is
Yeah,
the evolution.
The evolution of
Storyboard
storyboard media.
The last episode.
Oh.
See, we got this episode isn't scheduled to come out until March 16th.
Nice.
So we got a little bit of lead time. We try to record every week and release every 2 weeks. So
Very good.
if we get busy, we can skip a couple weeks.
Yeah, you'll have content.
Yes.
Let me come back. I'd love to come
But I
back
think
afterwards.
this is, as of now,
Yeah, we're
this is
good.
episode 23, I believe.
No, this is good. No,
This
no.
is,
is
I think.
I'm saying, guys, we like wrap it up and want to do like an episode to like make it all whole. We come back maybe with a pan.
Yeah.